Good day, everyone. My name is Ashleigh Ewald, and I'm the creator and the host of my podcast, 100% Real with Ashleigh Ewald Talk Show. Today, we have our May special guest, Isaac Hayes III, and he is the founder and creator of Fanbase. Fanbase is something that you may have heard. It's an app that is able to help creators use an alternative social media to monetize their work and them as creators. Please welcome Isaac.
Hey, how you doing? Thanks for having me.
Of course, thank you for being here. So just to kick us off with our episode about how the creator of Fanbase app is redefining the future of TV, please share more about your background and how the legacy of your parents helped you get to where you are.
Sure. So I'm a native Atlantan. I've been in Atlanta since I was 3 years old. And I happen to follow in the footsteps of my famous father, Isaac Hayes, who was a very popular soul musician. And I wound up being a songwriter producer for about 20 years. When my father passed away in 2008, I started managing the estate of my family in 2013, but I still did music from time to time. Um, but I always was interested in social media. Even growing up, I thought I was going to be one of two things: make video games or make music. And so around 2018, 2019, I got this idea by seeing a young kid go viral on social media in a Spider-Man costume dancing in a GameStop. And he was from Memphis. I was born in Memphis, shot him a message, and he responded and asked me if I managed creators. And I didn't manage creators, and I don't manage creators, but what it left me with was this feeling that we needed a new version of social media that was not so restrictive, but also gave the ability to monetize content in real time without using a credit card, because the guy that went viral dancing in Spider-Man costume, Marvel or Disney could tell him to stop using their IP at any moment, but he could really dance. And I was like, we need an app where people can subscribe to people like Netflix, but have it still be free. So have it function still like Instagram, have it still function like TikTok or Twitter or whatever. But also, if people want to put paywall content behind a paywall, they could do that. But I wanted it to be unique, that you could actually subscribe from your phone as opposed to having using a credit card.
That's so interesting. So it's like a way to basically allow users to have freedom in like deciding what they want to do with their content and stuff without the fear of copyright or anything, you know? That's
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the main thing about Fanbase is that it's free to download, free to use. You can, use it for a multitude of things. We have what we call verticals or tools or 6 features, right? So it's posting, stories, live, audio rooms, which are like Clubhouse and X Spaces, short form video, which is like TikTok or Reels, and then long form video, which is like YouTube or even Netflix, that you can put a movie that you create behind a paywall. And so you can post all those things for free. And then 4 of the 6 verticals, you can put subscriber content behind paywalls and have people subscribe to see that content at the same time.
that's pretty amazing. That's really cool.
Yeah.
I highly encourage people to check it out. Alrighty, and just on to the next question, just about your work in general. So I was reading about how you are voice acting and you like business, career-centered things, but you're also innovated because you created the Fanbase app. What do you love about your job and what you do?
Oh, that I'm free, right? I think, when I was younger, I used to hear this phrase all the time: work hard as a kid, play hard as an adult. Play hard as a kid, work hard as an adult. And so I always wanted to be able to kind of like decide what I wanted to make my life be on the front end, so that I was going to be able to build myself a path as an entrepreneur, as opposed to maybe having to go get a job and work for somebody that wasn't me. And so I did that by quitting my job, like, when I was maybe 20, I want to say 21. I think I quit my job. I want to say, yeah, 21. Yeah, 21 years old. I'm 21 years old. I had a 9 to 5 job and I quit it. And I was like, look, there's 2 things I never want to do again, which is ride public transportation, because the trek to my job was so long, and I never wanted to work for another person again. And so I haven't since, but um, it paved the way for me to be an entrepreneur. So now, I get to wear t-shirts to the office every day and jeans and tennis shoes, and I don't really have to wear a suit. And I'm my own boss, and I'm being allowed to be creative and create things and build things. And so that's really what the life for me as an entrepreneur and a creative person has been. It's just freedom to be creative.
Well, that's amazing because that right there, that's I was just about to touch on that, on how you said that you are your own boss. I think many people, especially my generation Z, would dream to be their own boss, but you've actually lived that and you got to where you are now because you have certain habits and decisions you've made.
Yeah.
So on top of becoming your own boss, not working 9 to 5, it's just how do Gen Z make that a reality for themselves? Like, what is the best career decision you ever made? Was it that?
I think the best career decision I ever made was moving into an apartment with my roommate and not having the second month's rent. And I'm being serious about that because what it did is it put this focus on the responsibility of paying bills as opposed to partying. And it allowed me to develop skills, which I call hustle skills. So I learned how to burn CDs and be a mix engineer and do voiceover and study graphic design, but things that I could, kind of my version of the gig economy before the gig economy. So I could just make $100 here, $50 here, and pay my phone bill or, you know, pay some studio time or XYZ to do. So I think if you don't give yourself, I guess, a option, a plan B, a safety net, then that intensity and that good form of anxiety of pressuring yourself to make sure that you're focused will speed your process along in life. And I think that's the best business decision I ever made because it allowed me to understand and not be so fearful of failure, to understand that you're going to fail, but you'll always be able to pick yourself back up and continue to build that. And once you get that kind of like that courage or that understanding that you can live in a world as an entrepreneur and not really stress about how you're going to pay your bills because you have a set of skills that you can use, I think it opens up a lot for like people to kind of pursue their dreams in a way that is different than most people have been able to.
Well said. Wow, that's pretty amazing. And just in general, like, how did you learn all this? How did you build your own success habits?
Mm. I mean, it was isolation. Like I think so when you don't have a job, this is one thing when you don't have a job. I didn't really have time for a girlfriend. I really didn't have money to buy clothes. I really have money to party. So the only thing I could do is work on my craft. And I think, and for those of you that have a passion, like anybody out here listening that has a love, and I think that's also identifying something that you love just as much as another human being, right? Because sometimes, it fills those gaps. I don't, always suggest people, be so into relationships, but that I think building yourself as an individual is something that is extremely important because as you build yourself as an individual, then you can kind of, it's okay to be by yourself because you have your love. If that's photography, if that's painting, if that's coding, if that's architecture, mathematics, whatever it is that you can apply to your dream, then it's no wasted time, right? It's only all you're doing is adding experience. All you're doing is creating, this, your 10,000 hours of mastery before you become a master, and doing so. And so I apply that. Like that's the thing for me is that you just didn't have a choice. You kind of isolate yourself and focus. And I think there's a lot of distractions, especially when you're young. There's partying, drinking, kicking it. You know what I'm saying? There's girls, there's guys, there's dating, vacations, and all these things. And they're a lot more accessible now than when I was younger. Because I mean, airline tickets was crazy when I was, in my 20s. Like, it'd take you $1,000 to go to Hawaii or something or LA, a $900 flight. You know what I'm saying? It's just crazy. So airfare is a lot cheaper. So I just think that there's a discipline that you have to have because those places aren't going anywhere. The beaches aren't going anywhere. The guys are going to get cuter. The girls are going to get cuter, all that stuff. But while you're young, you have the energy because I could stay up till 4 or 5 in the morning and then get back up at 10 o'clock and do it for like weeks at a time. I'd rather spend that energy building my craft than going to the club. You know what I'm saying? Because, and it got a little boring for me at some point as far as partying and drinking and stuff like that because I just built this discipline for myself that I feel like I didn't want a boss. Like I don't like people to tell me what to do. So the only way to ensure that nobody ever does that is to build a career where I'm my own boss. And that's, really kind of like how you get there is you really have to sacrifice. And in the beginning, it's going to feel difficult because all my friends were like, they had cars and girlfriends and they had clothes, and they were buying Jordans and everything like that. But now, fast forward for the last 20 years or so, I've been able to buy whatever I want to buy as an adult, what I'm saying? As a grown from my mid 20s all the way till now, got my own place, car, can travel where I want to and, eat. If I want to go to Benihana and have Benihana, whatever I want, the things that I think sometimes we romanticize or when we were younger about, oh my God, I can't, like Jordans are so expensive or whatever. But, and then when you get there, you really don't want it. Like, I wear a t-shirt and jeans every single day and white Air Force, not white Air Force, but white Air Max 90s and just, and hang out and I love what I do at Fanbase every day. And this everything you see behind me is the manifestation of, the sacrifice on the front end of life so I could build something like this later on.
Wow, that's so true. Because like I remember that's amazing that you said all that because I remember as being a kid in high school, like we had a motivational speaker come speak to our high school and he said, give up your guilty pleasures now so you can work really hard in your 20s, experiment, fail a couple times, people will give you grace because you're in your young adult and stuff. And then when you're 30, you can party hard after you become that success that you want to be. Like I definitely agree with you on that. I think that I would rather be like you in a way where I would rather sacrifice clubs, parties, trying to chase every guy I see or what have you, and just have all those guilty pleasure things. I'd rather have that way later on in life when I actually make something out of myself. Like be
Yeah,
big, become big and like accomplish your dreams first, and then you can reward yourself with all that, but don't waste your life away drinking, partying now, because then when you're 30, you'll regret it and wish that you had invested more into your future when you're young. So I'm so glad you said that. That
100%.
that's literally such an amazing, powerful mindset to have. And I hope more people foster that because then they'll be where they want to be 5 to 10 years from now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and on top of that, like when did you, throughout all these things that you just said, when did you consider yourself a success?
Mm. Well, I like to say this, like not only a success, but also so as a professional. And I want people to take this away because a lot of times when I first started producing music, I'll say I'm a producer, and someone will say, "Well, who have you produced for?" And that doesn't. I didn't have any big name people to mention at the time, but I still was a producer, right? So if you say someone says, "Oh, or are you an actor?" Yeah. What have you been in? Well, I haven't been in anything yet, but you're still an actor. And so I think, you know, you are who you're going to be, whether the world perceives you as a success or not. Just taking the leap of doing the things that you want to do. And some professions require some sort of entry and acceptance into it. But a lot of times in the creative field, to say you're an artist, oh well, where's your artwork? Well, it's in my house. It's not in, a museum right now. And so I think setting the mindset for myself that um, I was a professional and a success before the world recognizes it is a way to look at things. Because if you let the world determine when you're a success or not, it can beat you down. It can cause you to doubt yourself. It can cause you, have anxiety and get burnout. And so, and people are always going to do that. That's par for the course. There hasn't been anybody that's ever built anything in life that someone hasn't said wasn't going to work, wasn't good. I remember it's like, oh, your beats are trash. You're not that good of an actor. You're an okay singer, all of that kind of stuff. That's standard. Everybody's going to have haters. But I think you define who you are before anyone else does. And then the work that you put into that validates that. So you are a success. When you determine yourself a success is when you commit yourself to the process. Now, monetarily, I think we try to define that as well. And I wouldn't necessarily say that because if you can do something that even just pays your bills, but you're happy, doesn't mean that you're like balling. You are so much a success because you're living your life the way on your terms. And I think that's extremely important as opposed to people that go to jobs that they hate and then, try to pursue a dream at the same time. And even like a lot of employees that we have here at Fanbase, they're younger employees. And I think, one of our, core values is like, if you don't believe in this, like, I want you here because you love to be here and you're excited about what you're building. And, we got a stock option program and you got benefits and it's a place that you can really build. And so I want people to love the jobs that they do working at Fanbase, and you got to love what you do. And that'll define whether you're a success. If you're happy, I know that monetarily is like, okay, well, am I rich? But that's just way beyond that. But if you can just pay your bills off your passion, then you're better. You're doing better off than 99% of people, that are even in this country, just, by being able to pay your bills with your dreams as opposed to having to go work for someone else.
Well put. Oh man, I wish more people would teach that, especially in high school when it comes to like financial classes, anything like that. I think oftentimes, especially in like developed countries, there's a lot of emphasis that you have to be really well known or very rich to be happy. But I think that, and there's nothing wrong with striving for that. I want to become very wealthy so I can provide my future family freedom. I think wealth is freedom. I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting to be wealthy. But like you said, if you're happy with what you're doing and it pays your bills and stuff, that's pretty amazing. That's a win-win. Because then that's going to multiply into something bigger, possibly. And I love that. I think that's a great, strong $1 million mindset. And on top of that, in general, when you talk about haters, with your pushbacks that you've had, could you describe a time and just discuss how did you push through your worst times?
Well, definitely faith. I'm not gonna lie. God is a part of my life and my journey and always has been. And I think people, you know, it might be cliche to say that, but I've had real examples of where God has come through in times where I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna get out of this. And then a way appeared. And that's what I mean by when you get comfortable with that, you know that the universe is going to reward you or take care of you in a way when you believe. If you doubt, then it probably won't, because you have to manifest your own success. You have to manifest your own magic. You know what I'm saying? And and belief is a big part of that. Some of the moments where I think people have doubted me, and that comes a lot as a creative, as someone that's in music. Someone's always telling you that the beat isn't good enough, or it's not a hit, or it's not, they're not the right time or the song or whatever. But I'll fast forward to technology. Um, One of the things that helped me through that is understanding what I do and what I'm trying to build. So I had to educate myself on social media. To build a platform like Fanbase, I could not know what is going on with Facebook, what's going on with Instagram, what these platforms are lacking, and then the things that the the social aspect of social media, the psychological aspect of social media. So when I first tried to raise venture capital, because I wound up doing equity crowdfunding, and I'll mention that for a second, but I talked to a VC, and the VC was like, why would you want to build something like that goes against Instagram? Like, or Facebook, like they're giants. Like, why do you think you could do that? Or why would you want to do that? And my response to her was, and this is just my recognition, is that I can build from the tech development side in our team, I can build anything that Facebook and Instagram can build, but they can't build Black culture and youth culture, right? Because I believe that every social media platform has a lifespan. And so there's no amount of innovation that Facebook has that's going to get a 14-year-old to make a Facebook page. Grandma's on Facebook. So kids are always going to want to be on apps that their parents are not on. And so I always felt like there's a life cycle to social apps, right? That they live and they die. MySpace is dead. Facebook's a senior citizen. Instagram's a middle-aged adult. Snapchat's a millennial. TikTok's a centennial. What's going to be the platform that takes, people in their early 20s all the way down to 14 and carry them through the next 20 years? So then when they start having kids and they're like, you know, when they start having kids and then we become the old guy at the party, like, ooh, like mom and dad are on Fanbase, like, and there'll be another platform to take our place and be that. So that gave me the confidence of just recognizing the market, recognizing exactly, like, educating yourself on what you do, because that gives you a lot of confidence. Can't nobody tell me anything about technology and social media because I put in the time to learn about it. So as much as people will hate on it, you recognize that it's their insecurities and their lack of knowledge and their non-belief in themselves as opposed to what you know. You can't let that rub off on you.
That's good. I love that. And oftentimes it's like those who doubt people's projects, it's like I don't take it personally, and I totally can relate to that with this podcast too. It's just that like, would they do it? That's such a question. Would they do it? And it's not a way to be snarky, but it's a way to really be like, I feel like the ones who try to do things that the majority of the 99% of the population wouldn't try to do is what makes people like us challenged. And I remember, for example, like I know how you feel because this podcast, I didn't know this podcast would actually be successful. I just did it. I wanted to create this podcast originally for my high school during the COVID pandemic. And I wanted to create a platform for people, for girls and boys, and like for students and teachers to actually stay connected while everybody was in lockdown virtual. And so I remember there was like this like one to two people who were like, "Oh, what if no one listens to it? What if it's not popular?" And so I decided to make it my own because it got shut like my idea for the school's podcast kind of got shut down
Right.
by the org. So I created it and made it my own podcast. And here we are now. And it's just incredible. Like, you're an amazing guest. And it's just wonderful to hear your story about like just briefly touching up about your background and just like how your work has honestly sounds like made you feel fulfilled. It made you fulfilled. And I think that if we could all model your kind of mindset, I'm not saying copy you, but more like similarly replicate that same, not that same, but similar thinking of like strategically understanding what does it mean to be successful, you know? I think that a lot of people be in a better place and more focused on their future, but also being present as well. And then they'll be able to give up guilty pleasures in their early 20s so they can work towards the future that they want so later on their future selves can thank them. Because I think that yourself right now would thank your younger self for doing what you did.
100%. It's a big thank you because, um, and I'll tell this, I'll tell I've had plenty of classmates from school walk up to me like, man, you really like did it. Like you set out to do what you do. And they might be like, man, I was at, AT&T for 20 years and they laid me off. I got to go look for another job. And it was like, it's time invested in yourself is time well spent. Right. I mean, that's just, again, and to anybody like it, I say this, hate is necessary, right? This is how I look at haters. I look at haters as a form of gravity, right? And what I mean by that is scientifically, if Earth had no gravity, we would have no use for bones. There'd be no reason to have bones. We would just be blobs that floated around and bounced around because we didn't need to withstand the pressure of holding up our own weight. That is why we have bones and skeletons. And so that opposing force against us helps us have muscle, helps us have bone. So then we can sustain that gravity. And so forces that are against you make you stronger. And so you definitely don't want to just walk all the way through life, without being tested or being challenged. You want to do that. Me, like as a person, like I've raised $11 million for Fanbase through something called equity crowdfunding. This was the first time I ever did that. I am the most successful African American man to ever have done it in the Reg CF space. And again, I had haters, right? But and my point is though is like you prove your haters wrong by the work you put in, like understanding the business and all that kind of stuff. And so it's natural. We're binary people. We have to disagree. For everyone that likes, one basketball team, someone's gonna like the other, or the football team. For one person that likes one artist, for everybody that loves Kendrick, someone loves Drake just as much. And they're going to, we're binary. It's like we have to have we all can't agree. It's what makes us human, the ability to choose. And so some people choose to not believe in you, and some people choose to believe in you. And understanding that those that don't believe, it's not necessarily that they don't like you or they don't believe. It's just they have to have the right to decide what they want to believe in. And so don't take it personal. You can use it as motivation, people do, but but don't worry about that. Like I said, what I've been able to do, all this that you see has I've accomplished more than a lot of people that I know that went to school for tech, right? And that, studied technology and all that kind of stuff. And there's more to it. And I think something that I heard in this movie and I talked about before is that persistence is the most powerful thing on the planet. It's not genius, it's not education, right? It's none of those things, right? Um, it's not anything but if you never stop, you won't fail, right? You never stop trying, you'll eventually because you keep learning from your mistakes. And so eventually you're going to be good. And that's kind of like how basketball players get good. They have to miss. They're going to miss way more than they make. So as many times as the greatest basketball player, someone like Steph Curry has made a three-pointer, he's probably missed 5 times as many. And that's because it doesn't matter. So he's failed way more than he's succeeded, but it's offset because even his successes outpace everybody else's. You know what I'm saying? So that is the point. That's how you kind of have to look at life, is that you got to put those reps in, you know what I'm saying, and just outdo everybody. So that's just a great nugget that I think, and I'm proud of my younger self for being the person that wanted to educate themselves and be an entrepreneur.
Thank you so much. And what a role model you are, Isaac. Thank you for your time. And listeners, that's a wrap. Don't forget to follow Isaac Hayes the third on all social media platforms. You can find him on Instagram, just typing in his first and last name. You can find him on YouTube, Twitter X, and you name it. And just look for him, look him up, and you'll
And
see on
fan
his
base.
socials. Yes, fan base too.
That's
Download it.
that's it. One thing I want to say to your listeners is I built this platform for your generation. I want you to kick all the old people off a fan base and take it over and make it your own, and invite all your friends and hop in audio rooms and create short form video and have great conversations and create great content. And if you want to monetize, monetize. And I'm on fan base, and that's what I tell people all the time. It's like it's a startup that's founded right here in Atlanta, Georgia, right at the center of culture and innovation, music and entertainment, and there's tech element to it. And so it's a very definite watershed moment in the way that we view technology, of being able to scale a company to $160 million valuation right here out of Atlanta, Georgia, not going to Silicon Valley, not going to VCs, doing it just based off my belief and the ability to stay focused and believing in myself, and creating the company.
Wow, thank you. Well, in that case, Apple Store has Fanbase. All you have to do is click on it. It's free to use. Click on the Get app, download it, and start using it. It looks very similar to all the other social media, so you can all build a profile and start engaging with all the other posts.
Oh, and part of our innovation is we've created a tool that allows you to migrate your Instagram or TikTok profile over to Fanbase. So it copies everything that's on Instagram up to 1,000 posts. It copies everything that's on TikTok up to 1,000 posts, including the captions, and pastes it over on Fanbase. So you're not starting from zero. And so that's another thing, the migration tool. No app has done that, where it's like, I want to move. Well, just pack your stuff up and bring it over to Fanbase. And so the migration tool is something that's extremely important. So if you like on Fanbase, you want to migrate your content from Instagram over to Fanbase, you can do that. And then you're not just starting from scratch. You've taken all the content. That's your content. You made it. You should be able to take it wherever you want to take it. Uh,
Wow.
so that's another thing too that I tell everybody, make a Fanbase profile, go into settings and say import from Instagram or TikTok and bring your stuff over. It'll still stay on those platforms, but now you've copied it over here and you can start, fresh on the platform, not just from square one.
Awesome. Thank you so, so much. And don't forget to follow me, Instagram at Ashleigh Ewald Official, and follow at Gen Z Speaks for the podcast. This podcast is everywhere, all over listening platforms, Spotify, Apple Music, you name it. Thank you, everyone, and have a great day.